Coming to you from the heart of the Great White North. Welcome to the Canadian Prepper Podcast. Immerse yourself in the world of preparedness with insights from seasoned experts and a touch of Canadian practicality. Your go-to source for all things survival, resilience, and self-reliance. Now, let's kick off another episode packed with knowledge and strategies to ensure you're ready for whatever life may throw your way. Stay tuned and let the journey to preparedness begin.
Welcome to episode number 255 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We're recording on December the 8th, 2024. Can't believe it's December already. My name's Eric, host of the show, based in Southern Ontario. I'm a hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and of course, computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 7 hours. I've got the audio going in the background here because I started the video up, so I hear myself talking. It's throwing me off terribly tonight.
And I'm Jeff. I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter for now. Ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
And I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario, part-time amateur prepper, constantly trying to better myself.
I'm Terry. I live in sunny Central Ontario. A starving indie author, the official grand poobah of the annual Preppers Meet, a terrible hunter, pathetic fisherman, a proud foreign owner. And Wolf, he's not a proud foreign owner, so he might pick on me tonight since Pierre's not here.
Yeah, we're not going to pick on you, Terry. We've done it enough.
I know.
So as Terry mentioned, we've got Wolf with us this evening. He's a professional teacher specializing in outdoor education, runs a Barefoot Bushcraft survival school in Font Hill, Ontario, where he teaches thousands of students every year, including running a summer camp. Wolf is a published author, dog musher, and all-around outdoorsy guy. Barefoot Bushcraft also has a social media presence, creating videos on topics of survival and preparedness. Make sure to check those out. And tonight we'll be talking about Wolf's latest book release, Stay in Place, Survive. It's a coloring book created specifically for children to help them survive if they're lost in the woods. And it's hopefully available on Amazon soon.
We want to help support the show, buy some swag. We have both Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch. You can pick up at www.prepperpodcast.ca, and all proceeds go to help keep our podcast costs down.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and submit a review wherever you have found us. We want your feedback, even if it's bad. We also invite you to reach out and tell us about something you learned this week or any other show that we've published out there. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some written content for you in this episode, even though it's an audio podcast. We're going to start out with some relevant news articles. We'll update you on our personal preps since the last episode. We're going to get into the main topic. Like we just said, it's Wolf's prepper book for kids. So let's move into the news, shall we? We'll start with Jeff.
I just got one small one. Last week on the 5th, I believe that was Wednesday. I'm not sure the days. There was a 7.0
the retired guy.
Yeah, every day is a Saturday. 7.0 earthquake, about 50 kilometers offshore Ferndale, California. 7.0. There was a tsunami warning issued. It was since canceled. No reported injuries. There's some minor structural damage, but nothing else. So considering the size of the quake and the location, it all went well, but I just think it's a forebode of, unfortunately, bad things to come. It's been a long time since they've had a major earthquake down there. So I'm not predicting anything. Can't predict them, but I just think they're well overdue.
Well, dare I say it, more gun bans this week. That's got me fired up pretty good. Yeah, I'm not going to say any more about it. Other than that, you can look it up if you haven't heard already. Life here in Canada.
Yeah, it was another 300 and something, wasn't it?
another 300 and something. There's still a few 22 long rifles on there, despite the government saying that, center fire, AR type guns, detachable magazine, but somehow 22 rimfires make it on the list. They're probably going to, I have one, I admit it. They're probably going to take it and send it to the Ukraine. I'm sure the Ukrainians love to have that 22 long rifle.
I'm sure it's
It's
very
black,
useful
it's
for
scary
them.
looking, so it may intimidate the Russians a little bit, but
There you go.
yeah, sad. Sad.
Yeah, but I'm not sure if you heard somebody, and I can't remember who it was, put a quick post up saying the government's wishful thinking of hoping or whatever, wanting to send them to Ukraine. So we can't have them, but they'll send them to Ukraine where they can use them to kill people. But law-abiding gun owners, they'll take them from us. But apparently arms manufacturers that provide weapons of war and stuff like that are probably going to say, no, you're taking money out of our pockets. We sell it to them. So yeah, go pound salt.
Yeah, it's all a political optics anyway. Bill Blair's on there flapping his yap about them being weapons of war. They're semi-automatic rifles. Bill. Yeah, they will shoot people, but you're going to be a bit of a disadvantage because they are not military grade weapons. No. Mm-hmm. But anyway, looks good for the Liberals. That's all they care about.
Yeah, let's not get too fired up, Terry.
And the good news is the CCFR, we had Rod Giltack on last week. They took the government to court back in April over this 2020, the original 2020 firearms list, and the justice system in Canada being what it is, they got defeated. But they have an appeal, and the appeal begins tomorrow. So hopefully we'll get somewhere on that appeal.
Go, Rod, go.
So stay tuned.
We'll see. The fight continues.
The fight continues. And lastly, of course, man, what's going on in this area? Hey, that's quite the thing, and that happened like instantly. You just don't know how things are going to play out in this funny world we live in anymore. Like, wow, who'd have thought?
Fair enough. All right, before everybody gets fired up about gun bans and all that kind of fun stuff,
No more talk.
Maybe we'll move into what we've done lately for preps. We can't talk about boating accidents.
No.
We cannot talk about, or we can talk about boating accidents. No,
do not.
Oh, well, that's all I had.
All right, on the
Been pretty busy, just working. Yeah, trying to catch up.
Fair enough.
Jeff, what'd you do?
I picked myself up, it's used, but new to me generator. The deal was just way too good to pass up. It was a dual fuel Furman. It had sat in a shed for probably close to 2 years. It starts and runs on gas, but not very well, obviously, if it sat for 2 years. But put the propane on it, and it just ran like a dream. And I got it for an incredibly cheap price. So I am not going to complain about that. And I will probably do some testing tomorrow, just make sure everything's good and running. We're expecting an ice storm in my area, so I'll make sure everything's good.
Very nice. For myself, work, some more work. Yes, Jeff, work. And then between work, throw in some snow shoveling because, we got a little bit of snow. So that was it for me.
Bought a new gun. Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Fair enough. And that wasn't using the $250 that you didn't get from Trudeau? Is that,
the one I don't get because I don't have a job and I don't have an income. Therefore, I don't qualify for a handout check. No, I had to save up for this on my own.
Oh,
just
Eric,
trying to
you
stir
are
Terry up
just
tonight.
stirring the pot tonight, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Getting poor old Terry's blood pressure so high.
Don't get me started.
Hey, we're not poking at him about his Ford, so I figured I'd poke at him about something.
Oh, you gotta get me for something.
Hey, Wolf, how about you? What have you been up to? No, you're muted.
There we go. I also live in an off-grid
go.
community in southern Ontario, kind of a remote place right beside a big provincial park. And it was firewood week this week. So we bought 2.5 cords of firewood, and then even though it's already split, they never split it tiny. So then you're splitting it again and then stacking it, the old adage, right? Firewood warms you 3 times, once cutting it, once moving it, once burning it. So that was my week.
But you
Very
stayed warm.
nice. Awesome. Well, with that, let's move into the main topic. So, like we mentioned, we've got Wolf with us here this evening to discuss a new book that he's authored. Sounds interesting. It's like I said, it's a coloring book for kids in regards to preparedness and what to do if they're lost in the woods. So, let's pass it off to Wolf, and maybe you can just touch on how you got to the point of authoring this book and what it's all about.
Yeah, thanks very much. So like you said in my bio, I'm a professional teacher. I run an organization called Barefoot Bushcraft down in Niagara. We see, thousands and thousands of students, a lot of young people, a lot of children come out for our programs. And many, many years ago, I was involved with search and rescue. And, it's always a tragedy when a young person gets lost, right? Always, always. And a tragedy when anybody gets lost, but specifically children struggle the most when they get lost for various reasons. Usually it's just lack of experience in the woods, right? I don't know very many, 7 or 8 year olds that can start a bow drill or something like that, right? So, we hear a lot we deal with a lot with the homeschool communities, and they are always like, we need more information for children. Like the adult stuff is great, but we need more for children. So I've always thought, I used to teach a program called Hug a Tree, which was a procedural program run by Search and Rescue. We would go into schools and be like, here's what you do when you get lost. So I was like, that program has sort of dissipated. I don't know what happened to it. So I was like, I wonder if there'd be, I could, from the bit that I recall, I could build my own system like this based on their program and just see what happens. So it's got a very good response. All the moms and everything were like, you should definitely write the book. And then I'm like, yeah, but, a lot of children today don't read. It's not that they're incapable of reading. They don't read books unless they're forced. But a lot of people, most children, younger people, like coloring books. There's a big market, huge thing for coloring books, right? My students who are like 9 to 12 years old, if I give them coloring books on a rainy day at camp, they'll spend all day coloring. So I got to thinking, like, what if I could manage to make a program that is educational and fun? So one of the things that how we teach our survival programs is say that, we dress up survival programs as fun. So if you can have fun, you're going to remember it more. So we put this book together that was like, okay, so what happens if you get, if you end up getting lost in the woods? What are the best things for a child to do? So some of the things that we didn't put in the book were like carry a knife, because maybe your 6-year-old, you may feel is that maybe not the best thing alone in the woods with a knife, or, something like a lighter. The same thing, like maybe a 6-year-old in the woods is probably not the best situation to have a knife, right? So
Fair
we created
enough.
a program. You don't want a kid starting fires, because search planes will find you if you set the place on fire, but it's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
So basically what we did is we called it the Stay in Place and Survive, or SIPS for short. And it was like, what are the steps that we go through to allow to stay safe? So the first thing we did is say, okay, you don't ever go alone. Tell someone where you're going, right? Tell your parents, wear bright colors, pack stuff, right? All the things basically that adults do, but on a much more gentle scale. So it's like every year, children go missing all the time in the woods. Not a few years ago, I read a story that it was somebody had a husky, like a Siberian husky dog, and they attached the dog to the child's sled and took the dog off the leash, and the dog bolted with the child on the sled. What ended up happening was the dog, of course, is much faster, and huskies are genetically programmed to pull sleds. The dog took off. Search and rescue had to be called and go and find this child, and it took many hours. Recently, there was a guy in BC who survived, I think, 7 to 10 days or something like that in British Columbia in the wilderness. And again, he had gotten lost. So it can be very, very serious, right? And that's not without even getting into the tragedies that, have been reported for this. So what if I could take fun and take education and mesh it together so that somebody can, you can buy this for your child. You don't even have to tell them if they're not in, if you're into survival, you don't have to tell them they're going to learn anything. Just give them this coloring book, right? And it goes through all the different steps, like wear bright colors. Like I said, tell your parents where you're going. And then, so what happens is on the one side of the book, and I'm sorry, I can't show it on the screen. I'll read right from the book. It says, always tell an adult where you're going. Never go alone. Exploring is fun, but it can be dangerous. Never, ever, ever go out without telling someone where you're going and alone. So it's very, very easy language to understand. Then the next page, like if you open it up, on this side, it's the words. And on this side is like a little boy holding a map, pointing at stuff in front of his parents. So you can color that. So that also sort of sticks together with the multitude of learning styles, right? So it's like, people learn multiple ways, audio, visual, kinesthetic. So now you're coloring it, cementing that into your mind while you're reading the words. So that's sort of why we decided to do that. And it's kind of silly, but it's like, maybe this book could potentially save a child's life, right? And then oddly enough, I believe it was Terry who was like, at the very back of the book, put a little list so that they can cut that out and stick it in their pack, right? So in the very, very last page of the book is actually a little thing that's like, here's your parents' name, here's your address, here's your phone number. Because what if for some tragic reason, hikers are out and they find this child and the child's unconscious and not even reported missing yet? Well, now if they look in their rifle through their things, they're going to find a little sheet of paper with all that information. Plus it says right on it, remember, stay in place, so the child can read it, hopefully calm them down, right? Any probably Terry and maybe some of you guys remember life before mobile devices. You would literally sit in your bathroom and read the back of the shampoo bottle for half an hour while you were pooping, right? Or ketchup bottle or whatever. So the concept is to have that. You have that little sheet of paper. It says stay in place and survive, hug a tree, remember to eat and drink, find ways to stay warm, all that sort of stuff. And going through it, like, okay, if your child is on the ground, there's most likely going to be either drones or search aircraft going to be dispatched for a child as fast as possible. Make an SOS or an X on the ground, right? SOS is what they teach in most schools and programs, but I was thinking, as somebody who worked in search and rescue, an X, anything that's out of place will attract a searcher. Right. So if they can't make an SOS because there's not enough materials, because that's a lot of, like, think about if you're like 7. Putting 10-foot SOS letters on the ground is a big job, but a huge X, yeah, I can do that. Right? Even as an adult, if I'm injured, X is going to be much easier to put on the ground, right? Just pile sticks and leaves in a pattern, something that when an aircraft or something flies over, they'll be like, that doesn't belong there. Something's up with that, right?
Straight
and then
something stands out.
Help you find it. Yeah. And it's the same. I say, I don't think I mentioned it in the book about camouflage, but it's like camouflage is great, but the problem is that it works, right? I'm sure any of you, probably Terry's seen it if you show courses where you're like, here's an orange knife, here's an olive drab knife, and you drop them on the ground, the olive drab works and it literally goes invisible, but orange does not. So make sure they're wearing bright colors. It's easier to see, right? There's the old cliche they used to talk about this, where it's like truck drivers for some reason like to wear camouflage. If they're ejected from their truck during a collision, search guys can't find them as fast as if they're wearing, a white t-shirt or something, right? So make sure that they're dressed and bring stuff with you, right? The old, not necessarily, I didn't get to the point of like the 10C kit that an adult would have, but it's like bring food, bring water, bring a whistle. And they went on to say, hey, like if you yell, you're only going to yell, as you guys know, 3 minutes, but I don't think I put the time in the book. You can't yell long before your voice is done. If you're injured, you can't yell, but you can blow a whistle. And I put in there 1, 2, 3 blasts so people know, right? And then just little fun drawings, right? Like I had an AI coloring system do most of the drawings. So I'm like, a guy dressed in a paramedic costume walking a dog. So now I put in the book, like, if you're really lucky when you're lost, the guy's going to come with the dog and come and rescue you. Don't be afraid of the rescuers, right? Because, we used to say here that, children sometimes get scared because people were yelling their name over and over again. And they'd be like, the children would say, I got scared, thinking I was in trouble. So I didn't respond to the rescuer, right? And that's a common thing with children. So it's like, make sure you stay put and call out, whistle back. You're not in trouble. So
that's an important message to pass along. Mm-hmm. That's a great point. That's a really important message to pass along because they are going to think that they're in trouble or they're already scared. They're already freaked out. When you're calling a name, when you are out searching, you're calling that name with authority. So that is going to, that's going to kind of throw them off a little bit. So that's a really good point, and something that's important to build in to let them know, you're fine. Come on out to that person calling. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, do you have a question back there? So you're throwing your hand up at the beginning there. No, Jeff. All right, then we'll carry on.
I think he was motioning that it was 50 days for the guy in BC.
It was.
Wow.
He was supposed to be gone 7 to 10 days, and after like 14 days, they called and said, "Hey, he hasn't come back," and he appeared out like 3 weeks later. So yeah, it was pretty close to 50 days he was gone.
That's insane.
Wow. Impressive that he made it.
His biggest complaint, if I remember correctly from the article, was he didn't catch any fish.
Who else has that problem?
Yeah.
Don't know what you're talking about, Jeff. Don't know what you're talking about, Jeff.
Oh yeah,
so,
you too.
So you mentioned that you used an AI engine to do the coloring part.
I did.
The computer nerd in me is very intrigued now. So what is that process like? You just literally say,
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So it's a website called Color Bliss. If anybody wants to try to do anything like this, you go on and you give it the most detailed description that you can. So I'm just looking at the one image on my screen. So I put like man dressed as a paramedic with a helmet and radio, walking a dog, and then it's like, oh, okay. And you tell it like in the forest, in the city, wherever I wanted it. And then it's like, give me a minute, and it sits, and then it just appears as a coloring book page. And you tell it, this is for a children's coloring book page. And it seems to understand that. And that took, from a logistical point of view, probably this will appeal to Terry more than anything. And it took the coloring book draw time down to like 5 days, versus if I had done this on my own to hire an artist, this would have taken years for me to build this, to get someone to do that kind of artwork.
Plus that cost.
It's stunning and fascinating.
And expensive.
And the cost, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The AI, you buy the monthly subscription or whatever, and now I can make a bunch of books, I guess.
That's awesome.
It's a great concept. I love the concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I said, the idea is to help children learn, right? It's it's a hope. It may save a life someday. It may just be one of those things where I'm hoping that maybe like a school board or something someday might be like, this is something we need to bring into our classroom, especially in the northern areas. Like up in Sudbury, I hear teachers say that they actually teach survival skills in school. I don't know if all the schools do, but they certainly could use a tool like this to help to give them to the kids. And it's designed in very simple English, very simple stuff to color, nothing scary. Like I said, there's no mention of knives, fire, anything like that in it.
Right. So Scott in the live chat here has got a quick question. He just says, what age range of children is the book geared towards?
I believe it's like 6 to 12-year-olds.
That's a good range.
So it's designed for anybody can use it. I guess adults would learn from it too. I guess if they have, if they're looking for knowledge, but it's designed for younger children. If it was for older, I would probably have included more survivally stuff. Like I said, more like knives and fire starting and stuff. But I wanted this just basically make sure that they stay in place, find a tree, don't move, wave, make yourself big. One of the other things is make yourself big when there's a search plane. Wave around, wave your bandana or your hat or whatever.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a great idea. I love it. I think it's going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a hit.
Oh yeah,
I think
it's a fantastic idea.
And as the lead on, Wolf, once you get this one going, you could do an updated version for teenagers with a little more advanced skills in it, and still leave the coloring book model for them as well.
I am working on some other ones. I've really enjoyed the process. So I'm like, I'm going to make more. And one of the things we actually put in here is, if you have a phone, call for help, right? Because, modern day, I hear now, and I see it when I see young kids as young as 7 or 8 or 6 come into our facility and they have phones, right? So I'm like,
Blows
what?
my mind.
Call 911, call your parents,
Yep.
So mine as well. But I'm like, use those tools, right? Because maybe a child would forget, or I don't know. And then I put in the book as well, if it doesn't work, it's okay. Don't panic, because, if you're in a reasonable wilderness situation, cell phone coverage is spotty at best. But try it. It might work, might not.
Might work.
Yeah. So Pat in the bunker just mentions in the live chat that he needs to order 3 for his kids. Question
Very
for you
nice.
on that one, because Pat is located in the States. Will the book be available internationally? Will it only be available in Canada, or what's your plan for rollout?
Yes, it will absolutely be an international book because I tried to write it in a neutral tone so it will fit all environments. I used the northern, like a boreal forest style for comic strips and stuff, but all of the information in the book is designed to be location neutral, just for that reason.
Awesome.
So it does have internet, and if you hit it, whatever your local Amazon.ca, .jp, .co.uk, whatever, as soon as Amazon releases the book, then it'll be available on all markets. Absolutely.
And when is the release date?
It was supposed to be December 3rd, and it's just sitting on in review. So hopefully soon. So I do apologize. My intent was to come on the show and be like, here's the link. You can buy it now. But it just never materialized.
Of course, process. There's always a couple of extra hoops to jump through that you don't anticipate until they're here, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
And we'll make sure to get the link out as soon as it's live. We'll push it out, and we'll mention it on the next available show as well, and we'll make sure people are aware. But if you're listening, don't be afraid to just hop on Amazon and search for it as well, because eventually it's going to go live, and then you'll see it there. So,
yes.
Yeah,
do you know what kind of price point?
Again is oops. Yeah, I wanted it like I think it's $9.99 American, so it'll be like $10 or $11 Canadian. I'm hoping they'll offer the free shipping. I wanted to keep it inexpensive. It's 40 pages long, so there's quite a lot to color and quite a lot of information in it. But yeah, so I wanted to keep the price point down, because they recommended like $30. I'm like, dude, it's a coloring book. I could get them at the dollar store. I'm not spending that much money for my kids on coloring books, so I put it as low as I could. Unfortunately, there's no ebook version really available. I guess you'd have to print it off. Maybe that might be I don't know if people would want to buy it and do that, but
maybe some. But having the physical book is always nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at that cost, that's more than reasonable. So
yeah,
I can see somebody wanting to print it off, especially somebody doing a course like yourself, Wolf, that was doing a survival course of some sort for kids, that they would print it off, make a few copies, and even like you said, on those rainy days in course or on camp, here kids, here's 5 or 6 pages for each of you to color, and not 40 pages in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or they just buy the book for each individual kid, and
that would benefit me. That would benefit me for sure. But I didn't really do this for money. Like, I did it because I wanted to make a program. And I looked out in the community before I did this, and I'm like, there's nothing out there. There is no children's coloring book available specifically to help children stay in place and survive in the woods, right? There's a couple of ones I saw that were like coloring books that were bushcraft related. So like, color this compass and color this knife and color this shelter. But it didn't have anything that sort of weaved everything together in a space. And again, having a search and rescue background, having that survival background helps an awful lot with putting everything together. And this wasn't, the images were made by AI, but specifically all the content was not. I made all that myself.
So the content, does it follow a certain storyline, or is each page just stand on its own, or how does the book flow?
It's designed to flow from start to finish. So it starts off by, let me just call the book up so I remember all of it. So it's very much, it starts off by having a disclaimer, of course, and then it says, just got to get to the first page. So the first thing is like, always tell people where you're going and don't go alone. The 2 most important things. And like I said, there's a little coloring page. Then the next thing says pack the essentials. So it sort of walks you through that whole process. Pack the essentials. Okay. Hardworking explorers can get hungry, right? Make sure you bring water, pack your food, even if you don't intend to eat it. Bring a hoodie or jacket. One of the things I teach a lot of my students is something called hand warmers. Those things you can get them at the dollar store. They're like those, like a little package, right? And you buy them and you shake them and they get hot. Carry 2 or 3 of those. Right, they're not expensive for parents to buy. You could mine came from the dollar store, but if you have them and you get cold, even in summer, it can still get cold, right? And you have them, right? A comfortable backpack, flashlight, whistle, and hat. I mean, what else does the child need to carry around, right? And that's really all they'll need for the night. And then there's like a picture of a little kid packing a backpack. Then it says the next thing, wear bright colors. So the idea is you told your parents, you're now packing your gear, and now you're getting dressed and ready to rock. And then there's like a kid putting on clothes in his bedroom. And it says, camouflage is great and camouflage works, but if people can't see you, they can't get rescued. Be sure to wear bright colored clothing so you're easy to spot. And then the next one is, if you get lost in the woods, it's really scary. And I told the thing, make Halloween woods pictures, right? So the woods is kind of creepy and owls and stuff for the kids to color. And it's like, if understand being lost is okay and you're not in trouble, right? And then remember SIPs, stay in place, survive. And then again, like I said, some scary pictures. And then it says, stay in place. Don't keep wandering. If you keep wandering, you're going to get more lost. Find a big tree, sit down and relax. And there's a kid sitting in front of a tree. And that's even for adults, as well as all of you guys know, the more you lost you get, the worse off you're going to be. So just stay in place and just wait for someone to find you, right? Sure, all of you know as well, in the adult world, it's like you take 10 or 20 steps off the trail to poop, that trail's invisible. If something happens, you could tumble down a hill. No one's ever going to notice you're there, right? The very famous story of this was somebody I used to have a podcast about 10 years ago called the Barefoot Bushcraft Radio Show, and we covered a lady called Anu Kelly, who in 2012, she's a teenager, went on a spiritual quest, which was get completely naked and take no supplies and leave her campsite in the middle of in the morning, and was never heard or seen from again. That was 10 years ago. So wow. I'm guessing nothing good happened to her from that. But that just goes to show you, with no equipment and supplies, how easy it is. You guys, you could get lost out there. And then it says, try to call for help. There's a picture of a kid in the woods holding a cell phone, right? Try to call, like we were saying, may work, may not. Even as adults, it's worth a try. Then I said, the next page, use your whistle. Don't scream and shout. It's going to hurt your voice, and it's not very loud. Whistles can be heard from far away, 3 blasts at a time, 1, 2, 3. And then there's like a picture of a kid, and it's like 1, 2, 3 for 3 blasts, right? Nice. And then it goes into, I don't have to go through the whole book. Like I said, you can kind of see that it flows, right? Then once you've done that, put your SOS on the ground, wave at the helicopter. And then if the last one is, eat and drink, even if you're not hungry or thirsty, make sure you use those tools and supplies. Don't be afraid of the animals, right? And then the next, eventually later on in the book, there's like a bunch of people in, rescue costumes standing around a child, and then you get reunited with your parents, and then you get sent home. So it does have a specific flow in it designed to take you from start of the adventure, out on the adventure, getting lost, what to do, getting reunited, and then that's that.
Oh, very nice.
I don't know. So Terry got an advanced copy of the book. You're welcome to any of your thoughts or information. We'd love to hear it.
I liked it. I looked at it and I thought that's great. It's something that I definitely want to get a couple for my own grandkids, right? So yeah, it's super. I like the concept. Wolf, I think you got a good one there. It's a winner.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm definitely grabbing a couple copies for my kids too. I see Pat in the bunker in the chat saying he's grabbing a couple copies. I won't be surprised if as soon as Amazon gets over their little hoops and whatever they got to get over, I won't be surprised if it starts to fly off the shelves, because I think you got a pretty good idea here, and you're right. Yeah. It's something that hasn't really been done before. It's been slightly taught here and there in the schools, but there's not a dedicated book to it. And it's a great way to reinforce that learning with that age group in a fun way, where they don't feel like you're hunkering down on them saying the world's scary, bad things are going to happen, right? It's a great way of just getting them to learn some basics, teaching them that it's if you do end up lost, here's what to do, and it just instills that confidence in them. I think is what I'm trying to get at, and makes it a lot less of a scary type of situation for them if it does happen. They'll have in the back of their mind what to do, and hopefully, like you said, do it and come to rescue faster than maybe they would otherwise without having the information.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with all of that.
Yeah. So roughly, how long did it take you to put the book all together?
The concept took longer than the actual book, right? Because I was like, to make sure you get all the wording right and everything. It took a few months to put everything together. For me, surprisingly, the fastest thing was the art, which is the bulk of the book. But then, I talked to other friends who are into, social media content creators and stuff, and they're like, check online. There's got to be some AI thing that will do this for you. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So it did definitely that saved what would have been a year's worth of development in order to do it online. So it was an interesting tool. It does a lot of funny things, I will say. Like one of the first things I was like, a bunch of children sitting around a campfire, reminiscent of Lord of the Flies, and there's all these kids in like ragtag clothing. One of them's holding a stick like this, and there's a severed head on the end of the stick.
Oh boy!
I'm like, okay, that's not going in the book. But it's pretty funny. It misses the mark on a lot of it, and it makes it very, like Bob Ross used to say, happy accidents, where it's like, that's really funny stuff, but not what I was going for.
All right, I have a new book idea for you based off of that. A blooper edition for adults. Because what adult doesn't like
I'm
coloring
sure,
as well? And
a lot of the a lot of the images, of course, had to be edited and stuff like that, and that took a couple of weeks just to do all the editing because the AI is not perfect. Right. I don't know. Nowadays, every time you see an AI image, you have to like count the fingers and toes, and I had to do a lot of editing and moving body parts around and stuff like that. So it wasn't like the AI did all of it, and you just sort of slap the book together and it does it on its own. The editing skills you have to do stuff like that too, but.
Right, it cuts down on kind of the initial design, and then you fine tune it from there, and then you've got your finished product. But like you said, it kind of cuts down on that initial draw it out and get the basic sketch together, and then then you refine it from there. Because you're right, AI is far from perfect. It does some funny things, but it's a great tool to use because, like you said, it'll cut down a ton of time for you. So that's I don't know. The nerd in me is just geeking out about that. It's I like it.
And I didn't get into the book, but these are things parents probably learn on their own. Is like the best kind of whistle is the Fox 40, right? It's a Canadian invention, which is amazing, and it works in all weather, right? I used to be a scuba instructor, and we used to have them on our scuba vests. And I tried it underwater, and they will work underwater. Like, I don't know how they're built. But if I take a deep breath in and take out my reg, you'll hear it whistling underwater.
I used to carry them when I lifeguarded. Same thing. And they're loud. They're loud.
Yeah,
they're good.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what you want in all three scenarios we just talked about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I see somebody else mentioning the hand warmers, and like I said, for me, that's one of those things. One of the guys who actually did a lot of consulting, his name is Dave Agar. He was a big help in getting this book where it needs to go. And he was the one who was like, tell them to put hand warmers in there, man. They weigh nothing. They cost nothing. And,
not dangerous.
Your child now technically doesn't need a fire, right? If you had 8 of those things, you don't need a fire. The kid's going to be fine. And you buy them usually in packs of 2 or 4. So,
Princess Auto sells them by the box of 80 or 120 or something like that. Pretty darn cheap.
Costco
3 or 4 times a year.
And Costco sells them by the box as well this time of year.
There you go.
Again, fairly cheap.
They're good.
Oh yeah,
I like all your illustrations, Wolf. They did come out good. Yeah, you'd never know.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
Yeah, they're great.
Nice.
Oh, actually, there's a present button here. I wonder if I push that, if it will let me.
It should share your screen. Yep.
Share my screen. Make sure I have nothing inappropriate on my little top bar there.
Yes, it's always a good idea to do the scan first.
That's right. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. I just have to try to find it. There's SIP's book, cover, manuscript. Okay. It says it's uploading. No, I'm really glad I wasn't aware that that it could do that. So then the people that are watching now, we can quickly go through some of the book. And
that'd be awesome. Yeah, I didn't know if you had the option for that or not. So it's good to know it's there for you.
Yeah, that's great. It says it's processing. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, that's okay. That'd be nice to have kind of a visual. There we are.
Go. Okay, can everybody see that?
Are.
Perfect.
All right,
sure
so there we go. So like I said, there's your title page. Disclaimer, because all the AI like to make all the kids with bare feet, and Dave Agar, the consultant, was like, for the love of God, someone's going to complain. So there's a disclaimer in there that says it's just for show. Do what you want. So anyways, there's the cover page, right? So meet Eat, stay in place and survive program. Tell an adult where you're going. Pack the essentials. Wear bright colors. And like I said, it goes through, like I had said earlier, from top to bottom, every piece of what to do right from the get-go to and I was hoping he would look like me, and he sort of does. That's good. He's got the little doggy, because children love dogs, right? We have dogs at our facility, and that's adults the same. They sometimes there's more dog petting than actually working with us. So anyway, so there's the first one. So you tell an adult where you're going, and you can color it in. And then on the other side, pack the essentials, like I had said. And then it shows like a kid packing a backpack. And then wear bright colors. Don't wear camouflage. Don't wear army colors. If people can't see you, you can't get rescued. And then the next one, kid getting dressed in his bedroom, right? And then it says, woods can be scary. What to do? Sit, stay in place, survive. And that works because you're supposed to be drinking water anyway. So that's why I sort of paired that together. And the acronym just sort of fell into place that way. And then you can see it looks a little scary. There's like a skull on the ground. It's just fun stuff for kids to do. And then like a scary forest with no leaves, which is what our forests look like right now anyway, except for the mushrooms in Canada. And then stay in place. So there's some happy trees, right? Get out, find a big tree, sit down and relax. And then there's a kid sitting by a tree. And then if trees need friends, if you're feeling lost and anxious, hug a tree. Trees love to be hugged. There's a bunch of happy trees. And then there's a kid hugging a tree.
Yep.
And then again, call 911. And the kid calling 911. So like I said, the concept behind it was to sort of mesh in the practical knowledge, and with students that maybe can't read properly or in the beginning stages of reading in life with coloring, so they can put it all together. And again, 1, 2, 3 for the loud whistle. And I actually even put down plug your ears at the bottom, only because this is a me thing. I hate whistles. They're so noisy, even though they're a part of my job. So I do that. I'm like, put it in my mouth. Mm-hmm. That's how I use my whistle. So that's I say, blow loud, blow hard, and plug your ears. And then there's a kid, 1, 2, 3. And I tried to make sure that on both sides of the coloring book, because the coloring side is the right side, that it actually has the 1, 2, 3, because that's the international rescue. So, and that again is all over the world. The same with SOS or X, right? If I'm in Tahiti or England or here, if there's a search plane and they see either SOS or X, they're going to know there's a problem down there, right? And then again, a couple of kids just, I tried to make cool stuff like airplanes and helicopters and things because they're cool. See the little search guys, right? And make yourself big. From an airplane or helicopter, you're hard to see in the woods. Make yourself as big as possible. Wave your arms. And then the little guy down at the bottom there, he's waving his arms too. And then the same thing. You go to the next slide. There's a kid waving his arms. And a little helicopter in the top. And the same thing. So this is about this personal thing. So stay warm and dry. Even on hot, sunny days, you can get cold. If you get wet, you're going to get cold. Pile up leaves and grass to sit on, right? As we know as adults, it's really important too, if you get lost in the woods, that to make sure that you're insulated from the ground. Otherwise, your clothing and I see this, most children's clothing is not like adults' clothing, right? It's not built the same. And also, we know that if I sit on the wet ground, my butt's going to get wet and cold. Children may not think that, especially if they're panicked and lost and scared, right? So that's why I put down, pile up leaves, pile up grass, put on your hoodie, use the hand warmers. If it rains, put it all on, right? Because it's gonna help you a little bit. And then kids sitting on a pile of leaves. Yeah.
Just wondering there in your with the clothes section there, how do kids feel about wool?
That's interesting. I hear from parents that real wool children's clothing is very hard to get. And as a children's book, I didn't get into if you're wearing 100% wool, it still keeps you warm when it's wet. But if you can find it, that's a great idea. But and it's also a cost thing. Generally speaking, wool clothing is much more expensive. And I find a lot of, especially like in the homeschool community, unless they make their own wool, which some of them do, that it's just not an available thing to get like a wool shirt or something for them.
Right.
And then important to eat and drink. And then there's some stuff to granola bars and stuff. And so that's basically it. Yeah. And then I'll skip ahead a few slides to like some of the, and the only thing I put in, because I thought it was funny, is if, most of you guys are old enough to remember the Furby craze in the 1990s. So like, don't be afraid of animals.
Oh, yes.
And I was thinking to myself, like, if I was 5 or 6 and I don't remember that phase of my life very well, everything is going to look different. A deer, I may not recognize as a deer when I'm a child, or a raccoon. So that's why I just wanted something that was a bit weird, because you might not recognize the animal if you've never seen a chipmunk or you've never seen a real raccoon before or something, right? And then, of course, don't try to pet them and don't feed them, because that's how children will get bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you see large animals like coyotes, wolves, or possibly bear, make yourself look big, yell, and scream, right? Try to chase them off. And then there's like a little kid.
I'm sort of noticing, and I don't have kids, or at least nobody comes banging on my door on Father's Day, but as you're going through the pictures, what I'm noticing is all of the kids are smiling. They appear happy. So you're not projecting fear or an angst, or I'm worried, I'm scared. They're smiling, they're happy, they're having fun. Visually for a kid, I think they're going to pick up on it. I mean, if I caught it, I'm sure the kids are going to catch up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Good catch. Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted it to be upbeat and friendly. Even this one with like, don't be afraid of the animals. There's like a raccoon stealing the kid's chocolate bar. And I mean, I would do that even today if I was lost, like as an adult, and there was like a raccoon or something came up to me, I would totally feed him, even though I know I know I shouldn't do it. I'd probably chuck a piece of food at him.
Yeah, but the raccoon there is wearing a shirt.
I know.
You're right, he is. Yep.
Yeah.
He's a friendly coon.
And then see, there's the doggy. What to do when rescuers arrive? If you hear or see rescuers, they're going to be calling your name. Like I was saying, don't be afraid of them. They're going to sound angry, but they're not. Right? Be sure to use your whistles. And then again, I put that 1, 2, 3 blasts in there. Rescuers may be dressed funny because, as you know, especially Eric being a paramedic, to a child, all that stuff that you wear, right, or police or even search and rescue guys, that it could be very intimidating if you're lost, sick, and scared, right? So that's why I put it in there. They may be dressed funny. If you're lucky, they're going to have a dog.
This is true.
And then there's a bunch of searchers and the happy child and the helicopter and all that good stuff. So we're pretty close to the end of the book. And then again, once you're found, everybody's going to be happy. And again, like you said, everything's happy. The frogs are singing, the little bunny rabbit thingies there with the net. Now you're safe. Rescuers will bring you to your parents. So the next one is mom hugging her child in the woods, right? Just to sort of put that together. And so that's, like I said, the idea with the book is it's a complete circle of you start in the kitchen and then you end up being reunited with your parents, right? And then the second last page, stay safe and you won't need rescuing, never go out alone. Kind of, again, that whole circle of what was back of the books at the front and so on. And then thank you with the cool helicopter. And I wanted to make I want a big helicopter because, helicopters are cool and they're noisy and kids love them. I love them when they go over, when I'm outside, where you're like Planet of the Apes, you hear the helicopter like, oh.
Everybody looks, always. Yep.
Exactly. So then the next couple slides are the packing list, right? And there's just like a packing list of stuff, including the whistle, flashlight, whatever. And then at the very back of the book is that little thing that they can, and I wanted this to be the last page with the little scissors so you could cut it out, has parents' information, phone number, whatever. The only thing that I would do as a parent is if I was in a remote location, like let's say I live in Niagara Falls and I'm in Algonquin Park, I would put my campsite information on there. Right, because if they get a hold of this, right, and we teach this in pet first aid, where it's like if you're going to be at a campsite, buy a luggage tag, put the luggage tag of your campsite information and the dates you're there. So now if I find, and this is para-related, but if I find your dog, and then I'm like, oh, they're going to be at campsite 34, but that was 5 days ago. So now I can take the dog to the park office, and they'll be like, oh, it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith at this time, and they're from wherever. So you could do the same thing, certainly, with your child's backpack. So that's the concept.
Great point.
That's basically the whole book.
That's awesome.
Wow, I think it's very well done.
I like it.
I see Pat in the bunker. Furby.
Oh, yes. I remember those things.
Yeah.
That's good. And even just having
I'm
that
sorry.
in the book will give some parents a good laugh too, right?
Yeah, officially it's Furby-like. It's not an official real Furby.
Right, of course, yes. Got to throw a disclaimer in there. We don't want any lawsuits.
That's right. It's Furby-like.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Anything else you wanted to add about the book before we move along into the challenge?
Just partially related. There's an adult version of the book just called the Basic Bushcraft Book, and that's out too. But that has like how to select a knife, lighters, all that sort of stuff. That's actually usually a textbook for a course that we teach, but it has an adult level version of exactly the same thing, and it covers something called the 10C kit, which I was talking with David Canterbury because he's a big proponent of the 10C concept, and he was like, I didn't invent it. I got it out of a scout book that's like 100 and something years old. So one of the very first ones where it's like, have your container, have your candling or your flashlight, as we call it today, have your cutting tool, have your tarp, have your cotton or cover as it's called. So we have that. It covers all of that stuff as well for beginners. Someone like you guys, if you're very experienced, probably won't learn a lot out of the book, but it's a good reference if you're a beginner.
It's always good to go back to basics, right? And refresh that skill set.
And it's
Always
something
good.
else to add to your prepper library. And
That
it's
too.
something,
Yes.
like you said, it's something physical to have in hand that now I can lend that to somebody else if needed for them to gain some knowledge, and they give it back and makes the round. So yeah, I'd definitely be interested in buying your your adult book and probably 3 or 4 of the kids book, the coloring book when it comes out for sure. I got some little kids in mind, some little ones in mind that would definitely benefit from that. Even just the coloring part, just so they get used to seeing all the words on the page and then have it read to them as they're coloring it and whatnot. Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea.
That sounds like you've already sold at least 15 or 20 copies as soon as it goes
Yeah,
live.
sounds great. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, well, make sure when it goes live, you let us know the link, and we'll get it out there for sure.
No, push
Yes,
it out for sure.
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come out and tell us about the book. Like we've all kind of said, we're all excited to see it when it gets published and it's available for purchase. And it's I think you're going to do quite well with it. So that's awesome.
Yes.
Well, with that, maybe we'll move into the podcast challenge. And the challenge for this episode is just check out Wolf's YouTube channel. Buy his book as a gift for a kiddo on your Christmas list. I'll throw the YouTube channel into the live chat here as well. And while I'm doing that, we'll move into upcoming events. And Terry, we'll let you run with it.
Oh boy. Well, just going to plug the annual Preppers Meet 2025 once again. Please mark the following dates in your calendar and prepare to attend. This year we're doing Preppers Week, and it's going to be July 7th to July 13th at the Slovenian Hunters and Anglers Club, same venues we had last year near Allison, Ontario. And stay tuned to the annual Preppers Meet Facebook page and the website for details. The Preppers Week portion is optional, of course. You can just come for the weekend, but we're planning on offering some pretty intense courses for the first few days leading up to the actual annual Preppers Meet. And it's going to be big this year, so put it on your calendar.
It was big last year. Can it get bigger?
It can get bigger.
Of course it can. It gets bigger every year. It's awesome. All right, Jeff, you got a weather blurb?
I do. So it's been a couple weeks since we've been here, and it's been a difficult couple of those weeks for folks that are in the traditional lake effect snowbelt areas. As I kind of mentioned, areas are getting snow and measured in the feet. States of emergency were declared in lots of places in Pennsylvania, New York, Ontario. Numerous road closures trapped travelers who were stranded for hours, if not days. A lot of people were unprepared. They didn't have, even as Wolf mentioned in his book, they didn't have the water. They didn't have the snacks. They didn't have the basics to get them through being trapped in their vehicle for a couple of days. So, it's important that it doesn't matter whether you're driving 5 miles or 50 miles or 500 miles, that the weather's unpredictable and you can find yourself trapped, and you need to be ready and prepared for that. So, unfortunately, out of that, the last few days, we've seen an increase in the temperatures. It was +4 today in where I live. And unfortunately, this has led to several roof and building collapses under the feet of what is now heavy, wet snow. So if you haven't got your roof cleaned off and you've got a lot of snow, you might want to think about getting that done. This week could see a very substantial storm system that's going to cover most of the eastern U.S. and into the Maritimes. It's going to start out as rain, but by Wednesday-ish, we could see an all-out winter storm in Virginia, central Pennsylvania, western New York. Areas closer to the eastern seaboard, it's going to stay as rain. Could see some pockets of freezing rain at higher elevations. The return of the cold air behind this cold front, as we call it, or a dry line, whatever you want to call it, could set off more lake effect snow. I don't think we're going to see anything as intense as last week, but it still warrants your attention if you live in any of those areas. Most of central Ontario is under a freezing rain warning right now, as the leading edge of the cold air undercuts the warmer air that's already in place. And long range, and of course, I keep saying, if it's long range, things could change. They will change, but it's looking like we're going to be cold up to and approaching the Christmas season, especially for, the East Coast and into the central areas. So don't be surprised if you may get a white Christmas this year. It's not out of the question. Stay tuned, and I can have a better forecast as we get closer, but there's a chance there for a lot of people to have a white Christmas that haven't had one for a long time.
That'd be nice.
I can tell you an interesting story that one of my first teaching jobs was up in Penetanguishene area. If any of you guys know Coldwater, that area, and the day I was driving up there because I was supposed to start that week, so I went up on like a Wednesday. I came up. I don't know what the highway was, and it was like a wall of snow, just a complete wall, and there was like all kinds of police and stuff, and they were like behind that wall, and it was like 20 foot tall. It was huge. That's like 2 or 3 meters tall. And they were like, there's all cars in there. And sometime during that week, they had told me that they had spent 3.5 days and they had dug out an older man living in his minivan, completely encased in snow. And he said, I've lived up here my whole life, and I'm smart enough to carry my own gear. And he had candles, and he was perfectly fine. Yeah. And he literally camped in his truck as it was encased in snow. And he said he said he was fine. It's like, that's a wild story.
Just wild.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it pays to have that equipment with you, and you could lug it around for 5-10 years and never use it. And all of a sudden, the day you need it, you're going to be glad you had it.
Yep.
You're singing
with that
praises right now.
All right. With that, I'll bring episode number 255 of the Canadian Prepper podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or favorite podcast app. We're on pretty much all of them now. Please submit a review. It does encourage the algorithm to promote us, even if it's just for a short period of time, and then other people can find us.
And we do record these shows live on YouTube, Facebook as well, if we have to. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That will give you an alert when we go live. You can contact me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, or I am frequently on our Discord channel.
And I can be reached at fatbradcpp@gmail.com, and I too am on the Discord.
And you can reach me at the Annual Preppers Meet Facebook page, or at my personal email, terrylblackmore@hotmail.com.
What's the best way for folks to get a hold of you if they want, Wolf?
Best ways you can look up Barefoot Bushcraft on most social media, Facebook, Instagram, X. My personal email, Wolf, WOLF, like the animal, wolf@barefootbushcraft.com.
Awesome. You can check out Rapid Survival at rapidsurvival.com and get me there on the live chat. You can also fire an email to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. Thanks for joining us. And until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.
As we wrap up another insightful episode of the Canadian Prepper Podcast, we want to extend our gratitude to our listeners for joining us on this journey of preparedness. Remember, the key to survival is knowledge and readiness. If you want to support the show and engage with our community further, consider signing up for our Patreon and joining our thriving community on Discord. Links are in the description. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. This is the Canadian Prepper Podcast, signing off. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe, and keep learning.